going back to Liverpool a bit more as well, that year I trained under John McMahon, who was one of, I'm pretty sure, assistant manager for the LFC reserves when Rafa Benitez, and he assisted Benitez as well, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So he was an unbelievable coach that I got to be coached by, and another opportunity I got to go over to the Dallas Cup, and that's my nice little stop in Minneapolis. That's where that happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we won the Dallas Cup in 2017. So we won the National Cup, so that was like our League Cup, and we nearly won the league, but our game was voided against Sunderland because we were in the Dallas Cup. It wasn't cancelled, postponed, it was just voided, just ceased to exist.
Wow.
And I think if we played Sunderland, we would have maybe beat them and won that league as well.
That's crazy.
It would have been a really good year.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I do have a question, because you have experienced a lot of European football throughout your childhood up until now, and then you go over to America and get to experience what youth teams in America are like level-wise. How did you feel like it compared? Because it might be easy for you to say, but I think a lot of people in the United States don't really feel like they know the true difference between American academies or youth teams that are pretty high level over here, and then the difference between that and Europe.
There are some fit boys in America, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
The teams are so physically ready for anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
They could run for days. I don't know. I think I remember we played FC Dallas. I can't remember. I want to say Houston potentially as well.
Okay.
And then a couple of like academies as well, like development academies that we run into. I can't remember the exact names of all of them. So obviously these were like the bigger names that we played, so I remember them very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I remember, there were some really like technical skilled players. So I don't know like what your skill development is coaching wise, but there were some really skilled players. And the fitness was just ridiculous. You know, the England's known for a fit game. They're known for a physical game as well. And I've got to say, America's done that really well. I know the conditions at the majority of academies are really good. Because obviously the facilities were incredible as well. So it was a really interesting experience for us. I remember we drew to FC Dallas, actually. That was our first game of the tournament. And I remember them having a really good side. I don't know who was playing at the time. I don't know if they're still playing, but I remember they had a really good side. And it was a couple of difficult fixtures. We managed to get through to the finals, extra time as well. So I remember the semi-final. It was an American team as well. I can't remember who it was, but they obviously took us to extra time as well. So it was a really competitive tournament, and we watched a lot of other games, and there was a lot of talent in America. Yeah. So I think we're going to start noticing it now. Obviously, in the World Cup and the next coming years, we're going to start seeing more players come about. So I'm excited to see that as well. It's nice to see more competitiveness in these competitions.
Yeah, we are too. And it's funny that you say that, you know, the US teams were very physically fit, because I feel like we both kind of had that idea too. In the US, it's usually coaches, maybe high school and college, focus more on players that are physically fit, that are they have like a good form, they have strength and everything, instead of maybe looking more at the technical side or the soccer IQ side of the game. And then also, you said you had some scholarship opportunities in the US for some colleges, and it is different in the US because you are pretty much playing not professionally for, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old. While in Europe, you can be in academies and almost you can play pro at those ages. So did you think maybe playing college would set you back at all because of that process where you did have to play in those developing years where a lot of other players across the world are playing pro or playing in first teams? What was your idea on that part of it?
I think what I was worried about was just if I ever wanted to go back to Portugal at the time, I don't think they would have understood the concept of college football, you know.
Yeah.
So I would have had to explain why I've got no professional experience at that age. Yeah. I don't think the competitiveness is less. There's players in England now playing National League and even I think potentially League Two that have actually played college soccer and then either got drafted or went on a draft on a trial and then didn't stay at a club and then went back to England. James Belshaw, I think that's his name. He's a goalkeeper. He's a really good example of someone who did really well in the college system and then went over to the National League, and he's had a decent career as well. So it is possible, but because I always intended to go back to Portugal at some point for a year. I was just worried that they wouldn't understand the concept of it, because in Portugal, obviously, you've got the academy system and it develops some incredible players. All the Portuguese Premier League teams, I would say, have really strong academies, and it would have been really hard for me to compete with players leaving those academies for a place in like the third league or the second league. So was my thought process throughout it. I was just a bit concerned about finishing. Obviously, it would have given me completely different tools. I would have left a degree.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
have been able to stay in America. Maybe I would have had some like USL League 2 experience. So that could have been beneficial for me as well. I just thought it was a risk for me.
Yeah.
I thought I'd have to get a different base. Because I feel like with my path into football, it was always like a professional football career that wasn't meant to happen through the process, through the path that it just wasn't meant to happen. And I just kept forcing it and kept like battling for it, and eventually it did.
Yeah.
Because even when I was like playing school football and stuff, there was like loads of other kids where everyone was looking at them. I remember Sporting was chasing a centre mid in my team for years, and he's not playing football anymore, and I am, and a lot of other players that I played with, chased by everyone, by every top club in Portugal, and now they're not playing football anymore, and I am, and
yeah, it's huge, and like it's really cool for someone like me, and I think a lot of our fans or listeners who are listening, if they have a similar mindset, to hear that, because I'm someone who's also, I don't talk about it often on the podcast, but I'm chasing a professional dream at some point. And it's felt like that for me for a long time in my youth development, trying to fit, a square peg through a round hole, always trying to force it. You're never quite there. Everyone else is getting scouted. But as you continue to push it, you see yourself progress slowly and slowly to the point where the other players that might have been better than you or might have had more potential than you fall off and do other things. And it might not be because they couldn't get to where you are, but I've noticed it's just because you have that drive that's different from other people. And so it's so cool to hear someone else who's farther along in their career and is very established to be able to say that, because I think it's reassuring for me, although this isn't a podcast about trying to become a pro, it's reassuring for me as well as everyone else who might be listening who has a similar dream, that you can do it. You just have to keep pushing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
about,
really cool.
Like what I always say is it's about surviving the filter. Every year players are filtered. It's like you're pouring a massive bowl of something through a little tiny funnel, and it's spilling everywhere, and some stay and go through. That's it's just surviving that filter every year. And even for me now, I've come to Finland. Who's to say that it's going to continue next year? I've got to fight for it. I've got to fight that filter and manage to like push myself into something else. It's always surviving that filter every year, and it's important to just be resilient, network. I think that's the best thing I can say to anyone. Just network early, network with everyone. This Finland came for me because I networked. If I hadn't networked, if I just waited for that option to come up, it would have never come up.
Yeah, 100%. It's so important. Networking, making sure you keep working hard, making sure you, like you said, proactively put yourself in a position where you can be inside the filter, where you don't get pushed out of the funnel. Make sure that you're positioned in a place where even if other people might be better than you, or other people might have more skill or more physical attributes or anything that might be a little bit above your edge, that they might have a little bit more than you. If you position yourself better than them to make it to the next level, you're going to get there.